Good evening, YouTube friends. Dutyron back in tonight with another video. And tonight we're going to talk about something that we all know has happened today. As of early this morning, Bakersfield PD has taken over the lead on the Orrin and Orson West missing person case. Guys, my name is Dutyron, retired New York City police detective with 20 plus years in law enforcement. If you like all things true crime and fact related from retired law enforcement professionals from all over the United States, this is the channel to subscribe to. Hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you will get all things Dutyron when I go live, when I upload another video. I want to say a special thank you to my Patreon supporters, my channel members, and everyone who positively interacts here in the live stream. Again, this is all about the boys, so let's not forget what we're here for and why we are doing these informative live streams. Hello to all of my moderators here tonight, my special friends who have recently subscribed, all of the replay viewers. You guys are valuable in just a tremendous way here. I greatly appreciate you. I got a couple of really special guests with me tonight. Mimi J2, Dawn Marie, Jules Cares, thank you so much. I've got a gift. Thank you for being in here. Hello, Brent. So tonight, we're going to go over in depth the potential reasons why Bakersfield PD is now the lead. If you could recall from earlier live streams, Sergeant Bill Cannon and I, Charlie, retired Secret Service, Charlie Butt, retired Secret Service agent, we had numerous conversations that we felt as professionals that the boys never made ground in California City. Now this is coming to fruition. It's Bakersfield has never been out of the game, has never been out of this investigation. The FBI, you're going to hear from my guests tonight. The FBI is always supplementing and is always involved in the investigation. Bayan Wang has given me permission to play his most recent interview. We're going to watch that, and then I'm going to bring on my guests. But I really appreciate each and every one of you. Marilyn, thank you for being in here, and I'm glad you received your pen today. She was a recipient of the Dutyron pen, so it's great to have you in here. I've just watched your last video, 4:07 a.m. Wow, 4:07 in the UK. Thank you for watching. Hello, Brent. Thank you so much for the super chat. Let's listen to Bayan Wang real quick, and then we will go straight to our special guests tonight. You guys are going to enjoy who I have here tonight with me. Let's give it full screen. Let's go full screen, and there we go.
Good evening to you. That's exactly right. The Bakersfield Police Department took over the investigation this morning. And as you could remember, the California City Police Department were the former lead agency in this case. And I spoke to both departments this morning, and they told me that this jurisdiction switch was essentially that this jurisdiction switch was a progressive decision. It wasn't some kind of major breaking news overnight where they had to automatically switch who the lead agency was. This was over time in recent weeks, but it begs the question, why switch jurisdiction now?
It's a combination of factors. There is information that is known to investigators.
That information now making the Bakersfield Police Department the lead agency investigating the disappearance of 3-year-old Orson West and 4-year-old Orrin West. But those brothers were reported missing in California City on December 21st, a town more than 60 miles from Bakersfield that also has their own police department.
By no means are we dropping out. We just no longer will be the lead agency in the investigation.
California City Police Chief John Walker said that decision was finalized Monday morning, but he was unable to comment further. According to Bakersfield Police Sergeant Robert Pear, one reason for the switch has to do with the boys' history.
The little boys are from Bakersfield. Both their biological and adoptive families are from Bakersfield.
But according to former Bakersfield Police Department Lieutenant Gary Carresco, those factors alone don't determine jurisdiction.
Where the crime originated is the agency that takes responsibility for investigating that crime. It's not uncommon, though, for jurisdictions to shift during an investigation.
According to Pear, BPD is unable to disclose whether they believe a crime relating the boy's disappearance occurred in Bakersfield.
I would like to be able to tell you, but I can't. And you know as well as I do that it's not just the public that are watching this. It's if there are people involved in this, then they're also paying attention to it as well. And so I can't release specific details.
Carrasco says in order for jurisdiction to change, there would have to be good evidence for it. If a crime didn't occur in Bakersfield, will the Bakersfield Police Department ever just take over an investigation and say we are now the lead investigators?
There again would have to be some exigent circumstances surrounding the details of the case, but normally, no. Normally, the only reason that they would take over the investigation is because there is sufficient evidence to believe that the case originated in Bakersfield.
Now, BPD is not new to this case file. They have been working kind of behind the scenes for some time now, right?
That's right, Alex. The Bakersfield Police Department, the FBI, the Kern County Sheriff's Office, the Kern County's Bureau of Investigators, all of them a part of this case from the very beginning. We don't know if KCSO or if the District Attorney's Bureau of Investigators are still working the case, but yes, the Bakersfield Police Department since day one have been assisting CCPD. Now they're the lead agency, and new today we're learning from Sergeant Pear that over 20 search warrants were executed so far in Bakersfield, in other jurisdictions, in parts of California City as well, on behalf of the Bakersfield Police Department. He was unable to disclose exactly what they were looking for items from various residences is pretty much all he will tell us at this point. But for now, we're in downtown by Wang, 23 ABC, connecting you.
Okay, folks. So we heard right there, there's a ton of activity. 20 search warrants. That's quite a bit of detective work going on in California, in Bakersfield. So as you can hear, we definitely have a tremendous amount of activity going on in Bakersfield. So this is a good thing. This is not a bad thing. I'm just trying to get this screen off. Okay, there we go. All right. So 20 search warrants executed in Bakersfield. I'm going to bring on my first guest. He is no stranger to the Dutyron podcast. He's a retired Secret Service agent. He spent over 25 years in the United States Secret Service. You guys know Charlie Butt. He's a good friend of the Dutyron family. Charlie, thank you for taking out some of your time to be with us here tonight. It's a great pleasure to have you. Thank you. Thank you. So what's your thoughts on this shift of investigation going straight on over to Bakersfield? And you, me, and Bill, we spoke about this. What does this tell us, Charlie?
First of all, it's a good move. There's been a lot of work done to make sure that it goes to the proper agency. No agency left behind. California City did what they could. Bakersfield's got the case now, the lead agency. And as we discussed in your previous shows, we don't think those boys ever left Bakersfield. Yeah. And with the support and the logistics that the FBI brings to the table, I think this is coming to a close, hopefully soon. 20 search warrants is a lot. There's a lot of evidence that's going to have to be piled through. Details matter, chains of custody, and analysts. You're going to have a lot of analysis going on there. You're going to need to do this meticulously. I don't feel good about the outcome of this case. The longer it goes, when someone is missing, the less likely it's a happy outcome for those two young boys. And you don't wish that on any family. But the thing is, I think they're on the right path.
Right. Talk about, Charlie. I know that you have a long, esteemed career in the federal government. Talk about your federal partners at the FBI. What do they bring to the table? And I know we spoke about this before, but I want to just go into this for some of our returning guests and some of the guests that are new that didn't watch our previous streams. But talk about what the FBI brings to the table in the forensics department, and what type of experts they have going on with, say, lie detector testing and things of that nature. Talk about what the FBI brings to the table for the people you know better than I do.
Well, in terms of, the polygraph, although, non-admissible in court, I don't think that the adoptive parents, being as they have legal representation, would probably submit themselves to that. It
Right.
is a great investigative tool. It does give you some feelings about whether the person is or is not being truthful. I know there are ways of playing with the polygraph,
Right.
but what that does give you is a baseline to work with. And in terms of the forensic analysis that the Bureau can do, what they bring to the table is, bar none, the most elite forensic and analysis unit in the world,
Right.
bar none, in the world. They're the best
Have-
at what they do, and there's a reason they're the best at what they do, is because they are involved in everything. They are involved in every single crime. They are the only federal agency that does every single crime. They do it all. They don't just do financial crimes. They don't just do terrorism. They don't just do carjackings and drug cases. They do everything.
they do
The
it all.
vast experience that they bring to the table is what they've got to offer. And they're not going to be someone who steps on the toes of the California City PD or the Bakersfield PD. They actually want to support them. They're
Right.
happy supporting them. They don't need to be, the King Kong on stage pounding their chest saying, "Look at us, we are the greatest, we did this." They'd rather work in the shadows.
Right. Right. No. And Charlie, who better than you? You spent your entire career, working for the Secret Service. You know the federal partnership that the FBI brings to the table. You've had the State Department, all these different agencies, but the FBI has the top-notch forensics lab where they can take the, as Trezell and Jacqueline West told us, they took all our tech, and what they mean by the tech is their cell phones, their iPads, their laptops, their desktops, any type of electronic device. So any electronic footprint going back probably 365 days or so, they have that information. And the 20 search warrants conducted in Bakersfield. Now, there's so much that goes on behind the scenes. Charlie, you and I know as law enforcement professionals, we don't want to give the shop up, and nobody wants to give the shop up. You don't want to expose your cards because the bad guys definitely watch and listen to everything that gets reported, everything that gets written in a newspaper, and everything that gets talked about on a podcast. So in no way, shape, or form are we here to give the shop up, but we're here to let you guys know, you, the people, the public, that the due diligence and the investigation behind the scenes is top notch. And we spoke about that in earlier streams, that Bakersfield has 500 plus member police department as opposed to Cal City, who has 13. So it makes a tremendous difference. I worked for the largest police department in the United States, NYPD, 40,000 members. I want to bring on a special guest who I didn't expect to join us. I reached out to our friend Dustin from over in Kern County Sheriff's Office, and he sent a message over to Lieutenant Gary. I might be botching his name. Is it Carusco? I'm going to add him to the stream. Lieutenant, thank you. Retired Lieutenant, thank you so much for joining. I have my friend Charlie Butt, retired Secret Service agent, and I am a retired NYPD detective. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Ron.
Hey, it's my pleasure. I saw your interview tonight with Brian Wang. Bakersfield coming on into this investigation. I know you spent quite a bit of time there. You were a supervisor. I'm not quite sure what units or what details you worked in, but I worked in the warrant squad, and Charlie was in the presidential detail, Secret Service. So, we're just talking about this case and the everything that's going on behind the scenes. We're not talking about the investigation, but we're talking about the resources, the dedication, and it's about finding the boys, and that's really what we're here to talk about. And I think it's a good thing that your former department has taken on the lead role, and it tells us quite a few different things.
No, I think it really does, and you guys made a good point in that there are so many things that happen behind the scenes that the public isn't aware of, because you're right. Only the suspect oftentimes knows the intricate details of the case. And if law enforcement lets those details out, that gives the suspect time to prepare statements, at the point in time when they're caught. And there's so much collaboration between agencies. This started out with Cal City, but other organizations joined early on in this investigation, because California City, they just don't have the resources that some of the larger agencies have. And then
Right.
with the FBI coming in, bringing in their resources, their interrogators, their technicians, we all want the same resolve in this case. And, the collaboration between agencies is only a benefit to the family and especially the boys.
Right, right. And I agree 100% on that. Uh, you know, anytime you have a small department, and Sergeant Cannon, who's not here with us tonight, he received his first COVID shot, and he had a like not an adverse reaction, but he wasn't feeling good. So he was set to come. He was a retired NYPD homicide detective sergeant, and him and I were talking tonight, and we were saying that when you have a department that's small and that is not used to handling missing persons cases or homicides, or or just doesn't have the resources to do the behind the scenes forensics and investigative work, it's always best to lean on an outside agency, calling in either the feds or calling in a larger, like a Kern County Sheriff's Office, or you guys. And I knew that from the get go that you guys were given mutual aid and given whatever resources that you guys can provide to them. But because the kids had residency there and all of their family is there, these 20 search warrants, it's a telling sign that you know no stone's getting left unturned here, and that's good investigative work. When you are doing those kind of volumes of search warrants, that's telling us that every checklist is getting checked off, and that's a good thing. That's a good thing.
Right. And every tick mark on that checklist can lead you in a different direction, which is evident by the 20 search warrants. And they
Right.
must have some sufficient evidence to believe that this case may have originated here in Bakersfield, to switch jurisdictions so quickly like they did. And they have obviously exhausted as many leads as possible in Cal City,
Right.
uh, to then bring it back here to Bakersfield.
Right. And that's significant because and Charlie and I were talking about this earlier. When you have an investigation that starts out where the complainant calls in, Trezell and Jacqueline, the adoptive parents, they call in if their child goes missing from Cal City. It's just standard operating procedure. That department takes the complaint and they start their investigation. And then what happens is we branch out from the ground zero from where the complaint originated, and sometimes it takes you into other jurisdictions. And I'll give you an example. New York City Police Department, large police department, we would get a missing persons report, but the person, in fact, is missing from Nassau County, which is outside of the 5 boroughs of New York City. We would take the initial investigation, but once we've established that the person went missing from the Nassau County area, we'll hand it off to them. They got a 2,800 member police department. But if they need our emergency services to do searching, our helicopters, we have 8 helicopters in the NYPD, we'll, so give them the support. Just like Chief John Walker talked about early on, that Kern County, or I think LA, gave them aviation support on the aviation side. They did the scans of the Mojave Desert over there. So that's how it goes with law enforcement. We're not ever going to turn our backs on a fellow brother or sister in blue that's conducting a huge nationwide. This is not only nationwide, this is worldwide now. So it's great to hear from the other side. How many years did you do, Gary, in BPD?
I was there 23 years in total, and I got to work a variety of different assignments.
Yeah, yeah. And as a supervisor, you see it all, because the bosses, sergeants and above, they get involved in a lot of the heavy cases. And it looks like Bakersfield, Charlie, you and I talked about it. It's a busy. Bakersfield is a busy area. You got a lot going on over there. So
yeah, we field a lot of calls every year, and as a supervisor, you tend to bear the burden a little more heavily than maybe some of the officers, because you feel like you have the experience that you need to, solve a case, and you're trying to pass that on to the officers, but at the same time, you
Right.
know, bring the case to a happy ending as quickly as possible.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, we want to give closure to the families, to the victims of a crime. You know, our first and foremost, our duty is to, get, get to the bottom of what happened, make a summary arrest, and get a true bill indictment, and then bring it to trial and get get a successful trial. Get a conviction, have the person sentenced. So that's the main thing. Charlie, you got any questions for Gary?
Hey, very nice to meet you. Thank you for your 23 years of service. The only question I have with BPD, do you guys have one like investigative unit, or is it broken down by crime?
So we have an investigations division, and then it's broken down into several subdivisions by crime. But each of these investigators, they're so talented and they bring such a plethora of experience. There's often a lot of interworking between the units. If it's a missing person case, the homicide team steps in. If there's some sort of circumstances that leads them to believe that they're necessary, if there's sexual assault suspected, then that unit will step in and assist. So, we all stepped in to help one another, but there is one investigations detail.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not familiar. I spent almost 4 years in San Diego as part of my career, and it was great working out there. I got to work down in Operation Alliance and have a lot of fun down that way. But we had not dealt with BPD just because you were guys part of the Inland Empire.
Right. Yeah, we worked a lot with LAPD, and that's about as far south as we went. Worked with a lot of agencies in Northern California. I mean, we've worked with agencies all across the U.S. on human trafficking cases, and every step along the way, every agency welcomed us with open arms and were so willing to assist. And, we couldn't have been more appreciative, just as all of the agencies in this case, I'm sure, are just as appreciative.
I think that's what it's all about. I mean, any one jurisdiction can do their own cases to a degree, but when you have cooperation, that's going to lead to a better result in the long run. Not only that, it's going to build camaraderie. It's going to build bonds that you can use years down the road. Hey, I know in my own career, I haven't talked to a guy in maybe a year or two, but I know he's over in that department, whether it's federal, state, or local, and I can call him and I just ask him one question: "Hey, can you?" And the answer is, "Yeah, brother, I got it."
And that's the beauty of law enforcement is, the brotherhood is strong, and we are fighting for one thing, and it's justice. And, as
Yep.
corny as that sounds, it's the truth. Anybody that's got good intentions that are on, in the law enforcement career, we have that 1% or that 0.1% that don't have good intentions, but 99.9% of us are in it to bring evil to justice. And you sign up to help people. And I remember when I started the police academy, that was one of the questions that we as rookies got asked, each individual. I was one of 2,200 recruits in my class in 1991. And I had to get up and stand before my company and say, Officer Candidate Licardi, what is what's your purpose in becoming a police officer? And my initial response was, just like many others, I want to help people. And I want to bring bad guys to justice. So, and it was quite a bit more than just that, encompassing my 20 years in the police department.
Yeah, you really don't realize how many different ways you're able to help people. And it could be just as simple as helping somebody change their tire, or bringing justice to a homicide victim and bringing closure to their family. So it just runs the gamut in ways that you can help.
Yeah. I mean, Charlie, I could say this for sure. I have worked so many cases. I was in East New York and Brownsville, Brooklyn, which is an area, Gary, that you probably wouldn't know about, but it's a high crime, low income, a lot of drugs and stuff. I was doing some plainclothes undercover narcotics operation. And what happens? I get a phone call from Charlie. He's there with the Secret Service. I don't know what they were doing over there, but I took a moment out of my investigation and sat with him in one of the federal cars. And he had the MP4s in the back, the machine guns in the back, and I was like, "Whoa! I wish we could get some of that hardware here on patrol." But interesting, federal partnership. But listen, when it comes to missing children, these are 3 and 4-year-old kids. We're all parents, most of us here, in law enforcement. We start out at a young age and we have families. So this hits home for all the investigators, the detectives down to the to the sergeants, to the lieutenants, to the captains, and everybody going right up that chain. We're all invested in this because we are parents and we're law enforcement professionals. So we want to bring people to justice. Now, the 20 search warrants, I said from the get-go, I know how investigations go. You work from, the family members and work your way out to acquaintances and friends. So the chances are, out of these 20 search warrants, and I'm not saying anybody has to chime in and guess on this, but I would say, in my best professional opinion, they're going to be going and looking at who is most close to these kids. And with the story that we got from the 2 parents, it just, none of it added up. And for me, my red flags were going crazy when I heard the story, and I analyzed it. We went over it several times. I had Sergeant Cannon break it down, and he said to me outright, "Ron, the story is garbage, and the kids never made it to California City." So we have to just trust the process. We have to back our law enforcement. Bashing police and law enforcement and saying that they're not putting out enough information, it's a disservice when you engage in that. On the community level, what law enforcement needs is that one little piece, and sometimes that one little piece comes from you, the general public. It doesn't always necessarily come from a detective investigator. It comes from our public. We rely on you. And Gary, if you want to expand on that, and just let the listening audience know how important is the community in solving some of these cases.
It's really true. When I was the public information officer for Bakersfield PD, I ended a lot of our interviews with somebody out there knows something, and that person needs to come forward and tell us. And it's that slightest bit of information that we get that can lead us in the correct direction rather than the wrong direction that we've been going. And the community, their assistance was always invaluable in solving our case, because 99 times out of 100 there's somebody that saw something, witnessed something, knows
Right.
something, or spoke to somebody, and it's that little piece of information that needs to get to the investigators.
Right. Exactly. And listen, LT, I got a couple of things to ask you, and I'm gonna, I'm gonna tread lightly here, but I have a large following here on social media, so I have a website. I get people sending me messages in all the time. The general consensus in with the public's, with the leads that they send into the various law enforcement investigators that are on this case, the general thing that I'm hearing, and it's just, this is repetitive. Like, this is a public talking. We send in leads, but they don't follow up on it. I know the answers to these questions, but sometimes it's better when they hear it from somebody like yourself who's retired from the job. Like, there's many people that say, well, we sent in leads to BPD and Cal City, but they never went out and followed up on it. Now, talk about what constitutes a lead, and what, our departments can't just run out when someone says, I have a feeling the kids are in a lake over here, or I have a feeling it's, I'll let you expand on it, but I'm starting to answer you the question that I asked you.
Yeah, I think quite simply, investigators have to prioritize the leads that come in,
Right.
and work with the strongest lead that they have at the time, and the lead that may, correspond with the information that they already have. Now, that's not to say that they don't take the other leads seriously or don't follow up on the other leads. They don't always get back to the person that sent the lead in, just because of time constraints. And so that
Right.
person may think that there's no response or that nothing was done. But in fact, they don't dismiss any lead in any investigation,
Right.
because, going back to what we said, that lead may contain that slightest bit of evidence that leads them in the right direction.
Right. And Charlie, you can expand on this. if a tip comes in, say against one of your protectees, a potential threat, I mean, even if they're taking that call in or they're taking a tip in, and maybe they're not giving reciprocation to the person on the other line, the investigator is writing down everything, and it doesn't just get crumpled up and thrown in a waste paper basket.
It's not round filed. It's taken seriously and it's run out. But you reach a certain point where you either know that it's a valid threat or a valid piece of information, or it can be disqualified based upon prior information that has been gathered and verified through investigators who are on the case.
Excellent.
So you don't want to chase down dead ends that have already been closed. You don't want to waste manpower on something like that, because what you're doing then is you're spinning your wheels instead of chasing another lead that actually might be fruitful.
Right. And like you said, unbeknownst to the person on the phone calling in the tip or the lead, this department could have received 15 of the same calls or
Right.
similar calls.
I mean, never be the caller
Right.
and get discouraged to not call in.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? If you think you have information, call it in. The worst that happens is you gave it.
Right.
But that may be the one piece of information that takes the entire puzzle and puts it all together.
Right.
It just takes one piece of information, just one piece. It could be a photograph. It could be someone remembering a car or a description of an individual or a license plate number.
Right.
That could be the thing that ends it all and puts it all together and puts the hammer to the nail in the coffin for the suspect.
Right. I think, gentlemen, we can all agree as law enforcement professionals, no lead gets, like I said, thrown into the garbage pail. But we also can't tell a person that's calling us, hey, we've already investigated this and this is what we did. And we did the following thing.
Yeah.
So we have to just take in that information, because we do have to evaluate if there's any differentiation between prior information. There's so much statistical data that gets matched up to different potential leads, and that's what takes so long with these with these kind of cases, is that everything has to be looked at thoroughly, and that takes time. So we live in a society of, we want information. As the BPD public information officer or supervisor, it's like the media just sometimes can be your worst enemy when they're putting out or just wanting to, they're just trying to do their job. But sometimes you can't give them what they want, because you don't want to mess up the integrity of a potential lead or tip off the bad guy, right? So I mean, it's a difficult situation to be in. And Gary, when did you retire? How long have you been off the job?
I've been off 2 years now.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So you're a rookie to the retirement club. I'm almost a decade at the game of collecting a pension. So
yeah, I went straight into real estate. So
oh, nice.
I think I'm busier now than I was then.
Yeah. I'm going to go to the chat, if you gentlemen don't mind. We'll just take a couple of questions from the live chat. There's 800 plus people here. So let me just see what we got in the chat. Charlie, you're spot on, says Annie M. Let me see if anybody has any questions.
Thank you, Annie.
Hi, Dutyron from Indiana. Our guest is retired lieutenant from Bakersfield Police Department. Gary, did I botch your name up? Is it Carisco?
It's Caresco, pretty close.
Caresco. Hey, not too bad for a New Yorker, right, Gary?
Right, exactly.
And what's a little mistake amongst fellow brothers in blue? Anybody that has any questions, let's see. People want to know about obviously people want to know about lie detectors, that type of stuff. We can't give that information out. Listen, if somebody miserably fails a lie detector test, it just leads to additional questions. We use it as a tool to kind of trip up people that are given bad information. And this is just a generalization, folks. So, okay. Do you think that they'll get them to rat on each other? Those are always possibilities, but that would be a guess on our behalf. Here's a compliment. This is Sheila is giving us a real nice stroke job here, and I love it. These are three intelligent men, and I like how they toss their thoughts around. Not bad looking for police either. Wow,
Thanks, Sheila.
that's coming from a daughter from a former police lieutenant. Thank you, Sheila. Much love and respect to you. Um, let's see. Let me see if there's another question in here. I can't. I don't see. They're going so fast. Okay, 20 search warrants. Here's a good one. 20 search warrants issued all at once or at different times, or do we know? I don't know of any. I mean, I've been on like I said, we did the largest police department in the United States, the NYPD. I've never once obtained 20 simultaneous search warrants and did hits. I've done 4 simultaneous at once. But I would have to say that it would be a good guess that these were not all together. These are separate, probably. Right, Gary?
Yeah, the only time we ever did, something that magnitude was when we had a large gang or drug operation, and each location had to be hit at the same exact time.
Right, because it was all part of the network. Yep.
Correct.
So simultaneous hits here would probably not be applicable. These 20, I would imagine, or maybe a couple of doubles and a bunch of singles, I would have to say. Somebody's asking specific questions which we don't have answers to. Is the biological dad involved? Your guess is as good as ours. And even if the investigators knew that, they would obviously not answer that question. Let's see. Okay, here's a good one. Good evening. Who has the jurisdictional authority to investigate CPS agents responsible for placing the boys in the West family when they didn't qualify for fiscal independence? Now, a lot of people, Gary and Charlie, are asking the question about CPS and who placed these children. I would have to answer, and this is coming from me. Everything that happened, every step of the way, every exchange legally behind the scenes with the adoption process and the fostering process is going to get looked at. I don't know if that's probably top priority, but it definitely comes into play here. And Gary, you can probably expand better on that than Charlie or even I would. But that was my professional guess at that.
No, it's true. It gets looked at because every step along the way is documented as well.
Right.
And so that documented information can, like Charlie said earlier, can help verify or dismiss any information that comes in.
Yes, definitely concur with that, Charlie. The thing of it is that our federal partners, they're providing so much forensics behind the scenes. We definitely already have back all of their electronic communications, text messaging, Google searches, and all things of that nature. We've seen that on many trials that have been publicly. We're not giving up trade secrets here, but any type of anything going down to very personal stuff and everything that they've Googled on their phone. That's back already. It's now into day 60 something, 66, or I might be off with the time. But yeah, what's your thoughts on that, Charlie, about the electronic evidence?
Well, it's a part of your everyday life, and you're not going to get away from it. And unless you're a meticulous forensic expert in your own right, you are not going to be able to scrub your presence off the web or social media or any other electronic sources that you normally use. Your phone, your computer, an iPad, whatever it is you use, a tablet, whether it's Samsung or some other company. All this stuff is going to be run through. And with that in mind, they have got a treasure trove of information because they are going to track it, analyze it, cross-reference it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just going to take the time to process it. That's the worst part. We're in a state where everybody now wants instant gratification, no matter what it is.
Amazing.
We want it now.
Yeah.
Well, that's not how law enforcement works. It's very rare that a case is solved instantaneously, where,
right.
You got the guy red-handed, You witnessed them pump around into another guy. You got video of it now because that's like the beautiful thing. Eyewitnesses aren't good enough. Got to be video.
Right.
And then it's all solved, wrapped up in a nice package, brought into the courtroom, signed, sealed, delivered. This takes time. And,
Right.
you know, patience is the key. The worst thing about it is, and I know I can say for the three of us here on the panel tonight, when it's a crime against a child, it's even more heinous and it burns even deeper into the soul of a law enforcement officer to want to solve that crime. You
Yeah.
want it so bad. You just want to get justice for those children.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I've worked many missing children's cases in my time, especially I worked as a public housing police officer. So I was in the projects working in there, and kids would go missing all the time. Most of them would resolve themselves either with an auntie or an uncle, or, they show up on my next tour. I'll come back in, I'll ask about what happened with the search that we did last night, and the kid would return home. But some of them never did, and it always haunted me when they never did. Charlie and Gary, Shannon Bennett says, Dutyron, can BPD take any current pics from the phones for posting as per Trezell and Jacqueline? She said that she had current pictures on her phone during that news interview. I would have to say if there was current pictures, it would probably be up to the parents to post them. We're not usually in the game of posting the pictures unless it is a confirmed crime. You want to expand on that, Gary?
No, I agree 100%. You know, those are pictures that are personal to the individual from whose phone they were taken, and unless they're relevant to the case and have some relevance in solving the case, they wouldn't be
Right.
posted by the organization.
Right. The
But
police
of course, they
department.
could be posted by the family.
Right. Yeah. So law enforcement is not in the business of posting pictures of missing persons unless there's a suspect maybe in custody and we have definite confirmation that these children are out there and something. Listen, again, we don't know what they have behind the scenes, but it's right now up to the parents who aren't in custody to do the right thing. So this just tells a little bit more of a tale of what type of folks these people are, and if they do in fact have updated photos, I think that they would have been posting them. I don't feel that they had any updated photos. I think she was full of I had to bleep that one out. So yeah, Gary, I appreciate you being here. I don't want to hold you any longer. Really, would you come back and join us again if anything unfolds in the future?
Yeah, for sure. I'd love to. I really appreciate you guys having me on. It was a pleasure meeting you.
Yeah.
Anytime I can help, I will.
Yeah,
Yeah,
nice to meet you, Gary. Hope to see you again soon.
Yeah, we have almost 900 people here in the chat, and there's been a lot of compliments for you and your agency. BPD is got their hands full with a lot of regular stuff that goes on there. We saw the big takedown with the feds with the human trafficking just last month. I covered that. You guys did a great job. 2-year investigation. I'm sure that maybe you caught the back end of that on your way out the door. That's a lot of man hours. That's a lot of danger. That's a lot of missed family dinners and birthdays and holidays and things of that nature. So kudos to the Bakersfield Police Department on a wonderful job that they're doing. And you know what? The public is always going to say we're not doing enough, because no matter what we do, it's never good enough. But you guys doing a great job. Gary, I appreciate you coming here, and God bless you in your retirement. I got your number now, so you can't escape me. I'll be texting you.
Sir.
All right, Gary.
All right, guys. Thank you. And thank you for your service as well.
Thank you, brother. Talk to you soon. All righty. Awesome. What a great guest from the Bakersfield Police Department, retired lieutenant, joining. He was on with Brian Wang earlier today. So that was a real treat, Charlie. We got a little bit of a.
He's a good man. Good man. He knows his business.
We're going to invite him back on. I'm going to make a little bit of conversation with him tomorrow, and maybe get you and him and Sergeant Cannon back on in the future.
Yeah, if you get a chance, tell Bill I said hope he feels better soon.
Yeah, he's just a little achy, and he's older than us. He's like an old man. He's at a replacement hip. So we hope that he feels better. I think it's just a little.
We all hope to age gracefully.
There you go. There you go. Let me just check the chat, Charlie. I don't know. Do you have time? Or do you got to
Oh, I
run?
got plenty of time. Oh yeah, yeah.
We're at 45 minutes.
I'm good. I'm good.
Let me just cherry pick a couple of questions. Need to think why set up scene at Cal City because more involved at Bakersfield apartment. Kenny Knackers, I get what you're saying there. The 20 search warrants that Bakersfield, this was new to us. I didn't even know that they conducted 20 search warrants until Brian Wang, got out there and got the story out. So I feel that those 20 search warrants, I said it a few times, Charlie, like people were, how come Trezel's parents, their house wasn't searched? I said on a live stream, how do you know that house wasn't hit at 4:30 in the morning one night?
They don't.
Right. So I would have to say, and I wouldn't bet my pension on it, but I would bet strongly. I would put 500 on black or 500 on red. And I would say that, yeah, they hit that house, and that was
20 search warrants is a lot. That's a lot. I mean,
they're not doing
in any case. In any case,
they're not doing that search warrant at a McDonald's. That you and I both know that.
They're going to places that are going to be fruitful or hope to be fruitful.
Right.
You know, and you just don't walk into the court and see the judge and say, "Hey, judge, I need a warrant for 354 Main Street." Oh, okay.
Right.
No, you've got to have a warrant with articulable facts as to why you need a warrant for that.
They don't hand them out like cupcakes. They don't hand them out like.
Yeah, it's not like, hey, down at the bingo parlor, here we go, kiddos. It's B75.
Yeah,
there you go. Enjoy.
Somebody just said in the chat that you remind them of a young Clint Eastwood.
I wish I had his money and his longevity.
There you go. Charlize Norton says, what do you think it really says if they are wanting anyone who has physically seen the boys in the past 365 days to come forward? You think they doubt the adoptive parents and grandparents? Hold on. I'm going to have to bleep this out. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. If you want to talk to anyone, whether it's 365 or 365 plus, who were the last people that you can verify saw these kids?
Right.
And where and under what circumstances? That's important. Under what circumstances? Were they under duress? Were they healthy and happy? Were they clean and dressed well? Or were they filthy and dirty and malnutritioned?
Right. And where did they take them when they went shopping for food? Were they out at the local food market? Don't forget, Charlie, California City is not like where we live. It's not a densely populated area. There's probably a couple of small stores. There's probably limited areas where you can get supplies. And if they're living there 3 months, you need to get stuff. Somebody just asked me, Dutyron, I highlighted it as Shannon Bennett says, Potomac Avenue is in the Kern County Sheriff's Office area. Are they included too? I called our good friend who is an active detective sergeant in Kern County, and I asked him that very question. So, Shannon, thank you for that question. He told they're saying you look like a Charlie Sheen as well. That was from the last live stream. But Charlie Sheen, welcome. Thank you for joining. I asked the Kern County Detective Sergeant if they are assisting, and he said they are on standby. They are not assisting in the investigation at this time, and that's coming from an active Kern County sheriff's. But he said if they need us, we're there. Desert searches are their specialty. So let me just look at the chat quick. Here's a good question. Why did they need 20 search warrants? Because they needed them. And like Charlie just said, judges don't just give search warrants out like you're handing candy to a baby. You need to have quite a bit of evidence to get a judge to sign off on a search warrant. Let's see, Charlie, this is a good one for you. Do you think DNA came back and none of the boys' DNA was found in the California City home?
It depends. Look, this is a wide open case at the moment. I realize the reason it's switched back to BPD is probably because they have most of their evidence there. That doesn't preclude the fact that there is some DNA in the Cal City area,
Right.
but
Right.
the overwhelming majority of the evidence for it to switch jurisdictions means that it is in BPD's territorial jurisdiction for the state of California.
Right.
I
concur with
don't see
you.
that these boys ever made it there. There
No.
could be DNA evidence, whether it's they've got, maybe they brought, and I'm just guessing, maybe
Right.
they brought some clothing to the house that the boys had previously worn as a
Or
dupe,
bedding shared, or
and that could have
bedding.
DNA on it.
Absolutely. And that's why I think the sheriff, John Walker, said that the dogs hit on the inside of the house. If they have 6 kids, listen, my son did 3 years apart. It was hard to share the clothing, but a blanket, like my oldest would always take my youngest little blanket, his little comfy blanket, and he would tease him and take it. So they would have the sense, he'd be sharing, a pillowcase or you know what I'm saying. So that's perhaps how those hits happened up in Cal City. It doesn't mean that the boys were actually there. Did the adoptive parents' family work for the county, and that's how that's how they got into fostering? I'm going to take this one, Charlie, because I researched
Sure,
this.
I'm not familiar with what their background is in terms of their work history.
So there's a rumor circulating, and I was never able to confirm the validity of it, that the adoptive parents, the Jacqueline, her parent, her mom worked for CPS or child welfare. If in fact, now please understand what I'm saying. If in fact that is true, there is no way that Jacqueline's mom would ever be able to get away with signing off on paperwork or any transaction transferring kids. If it's a conflict of interest. It's Charlie. It's just like if I am the detective and my family member becomes a victim of a crime in my zone.
Yeah, you're out the door on the investigation.
My lieutenant, my sergeant pats me on the back and says, "Dutyron, go home. Take 2 weeks vacation. Get the here." Okay. Yeah. So the thought and the notion, and this is no disrespect to anybody, but this is a professional opinion that is valid. There is no way that anybody would sign off. And if in fact that rumor or that conspiracy theory is true, that means everybody in that whole office has to be in cahoots with committing a crime or committing something that's, a conflict of interest. And and I know that if there was something that was going on in the police department, and let's just say there was an officer that was corrupt, that person was turned in immediately to internal affairs. It wasn't just like people would just be like, "Oh, well, he's doing something really bad. I'm going to look the other way." That doesn't exist. Okay,
No, you don't want to work with someone like that. They're a
yeah.
liability.
And if it did exist, I didn't see it. So that is a good question, Sharon M. Thank you for bringing that up, because so many people are talking about it. It's not even in my eyes. It's not even a possibility. And if in fact that did happen, the investigators that are investigating will uncover it, and those people will be addressed. So let me look at a couple more questions, Charlie. I know you're getting paid by the minute here, so. Hey guys, just a little background on me and Charlie. We met probably about 35 to 38 years ago on a citizens band type radio. We did communication. He was a ham radio operator and all kinds of good stuff. So Charlie and I, we came to be friends with each other before. Well, he was in. Were you already in Secret Service? Yeah, you were already in, and then I was in. So,
you were over in Brooklyn at the time.
Yeah. So wait a minute. So then it isn't.
And I was in the New York field office down at when it went back then when the World Trade Center still existed.
Right. So I'm thinking about Rob. I know him 40 years. So you and I 30 years. Definitely.
Yeah,
30.
at least. So it was from about 90. when did I get back from being
I
out
started in
west?
'91 with the police
Yeah, so
department.
I was back around right around 97, 98, somewhere in that
Yeah.
zone.
So Charlie lived a couple of towns over from me, and we hung out. We had some really great times together as, you know, friends off the job. And then, you know, he was working for the feds. He's, you know, Secret Service agent. You have had stints with the Clintons, right? Talk about some of the presidential. I want to give you time to boast a little bit, Charlie.
No. I don't want to boast. No, here's the
Boasting.
deal. It's like the old saying. It's the toughest job you'll ever love. I got to do things that I never thought I would have done. I got to see the world.
Who were some of the
Uh,
presidents you were on, Charlie? Come on, stop beating around the bush.
no, I mean, okay. So I've done everyone from Jimmy Carter forward up through President Obama into the almost the beginning of then candidate Donald J. Trump.
Wow.
And, you know, it was a great career and it was wonderful. And I mean, it's like any job. You have days you say to yourself, I don't get paid enough to do this. And then there are other days you look and you say, I got paid to do this.
Yeah.
You know, so
Almost
it,
criminal
you know,
sometimes,
it
right?
was wonderful. It was one. Look, the only continent I haven't been to is Antarctica, and I don't think I need to go there.
Wow. Yeah. I would
Yeah,
say Antarctica.
yeah. Well, maybe, you know, maybe you
Right.
avoid the coronavirus.
Charlie, we're gonna get back to your career in a minute, but one of our commenters asked 20 search warrants. Does that mean there could be potential 20 arrests? I can answer that. No,
No.
no, no.
I see that. I mean, you got to look at the target list is narrow right now, right?
Right,
You got the adoptive parents. You might have a few relatives on the periphery
right,
who didn't agree with the adoption process and who they went to, but I don't foresee 20. I mean,
right,
search warrants enhance an arrest warrant. They can be
right.
used as evidence or an affidavit of an arrest warrant, but I don't foresee that you execute 20 search warrants and that equals to 20 arrest warrants. It could, I mean, it could, or it could mean
Yeah.
more. You know,
Some.
you could do
I,
one search
I,
warrant and get dozens of arrest warrants off it based on the evidence.
right. I've done search warrants where I've had 20 arrests in one search warrant. You know, because I've had a house of horrors that had people all over the place, and there was everybody who had drugs on them. So it happens. There's no set. It doesn't mean that if there's 20 search warrants, there's 20 arrests. It could mean 40. It could mean 2 arrests. Sam Costa says, that's terrific, Charlie. You should be very proud of yourself. Thank you for your service.
Yeah, thank you, Sam.
Let's get back to you and a little bit of some of the. Well, who were some of your favorite presidents that you worked with, and who were some that maybe were less than desirable? That was a better word.
Here's the deal. They're all desirable, and here's the reason why. Because we have a great relationship with all of the presidents that are in office at the time and then become a former president, because we respect the office. We do our job regardless of the political atmosphere, regardless of the party that is in power. I don't
Right.
care what your party is. I don't care what your beliefs are, you know, in
Mhm.
terms of you're pro this or anti that or whatever it is. I have one
Right.
job to do. My job is to keep you alive and to keep you safe, and then also protect all the other protectees of the U.S. Secret Service, whether it's your family, you know, or other people we are bound to protect by law. Politics never factors into it. Never.
Right.
That's just the
Right.
way it is. I mean,
Mm.
listen, you can't operate an agency in a political environment think you're going to survive. It's just not going to work.
No.
That's like saying, "Hey, you know what? You got mugged today, and you're a Republican. I don't like you. We're not going to take the report." Or you're a Democrat. We don't
Well,
like you. We're not taking the report. It doesn't
Charlie,
work that way.
but I wasn't trying to be political about that question. You must have misunderstood what I was saying. I'm just saying, were there some that were a pain in the ass to work for, and were there some that were just,
Yeah,
hey,
some are
come here,
easy, some are hard.
come here, come here,
But we're
Secret
all
Service.
individuals. We
I
all have
love you, Secret
personalities.
Service.
You know what I'm saying? Look,
I love you,
here's the
Secret
deal.
Service.
If,
Or there's some
if
of them are like, so go yourself and leave me the alone. You know?
some of it, look, some of them want us, some of them don't want us. But you got to
Right.
work with that. You know,
All right.
as
Okay.
the only two people, listen, the
put it out.
only two people who can't sign off on protection are the president and the vice president. They can't sign off. They
Right.
have to take it.
I know.
They can't.
Listen,
It's a
dude,
national security issue.
I remember when I first met you, like maybe in the first 5 years, and you told me a story. Maybe we shouldn't talk about it, but
No, we can't. We can't. No,
I know.
don't go down that road. I'm gonna die.
No, okay, so I'll do this in a roundabout way.
All
You
right.
said to me that there was a certain president and his certain wife who was not really fond of the Secret Service and was disrespectful and with words. I don't know who it was. I don't remember. My brain, I'm old, but I remember you telling me that story, and I was like, these guys are freaking putting their lives on the line and saying that if
It happens, but you go. You know what? You got to get over it.
I'll let my audience figure it out. Okay.
Yeah, you got to get over it. Here's the deal. You know what it is? It's like you have a petulant child. All right, and no matter what you do for the kid, it's not good enough.
Yeah.
You could hand someone $1 million lotto ticket, and they go, "Why not 2 million?"
Yeah. All right. So
you just got to roll with it.
Yeah,
You know, it does it sting a little bit? Yeah, it does. Of course it does. We're all human. It stings, of course.
Charlie, look at the question. Look at look at what I highlighted there. JJ 51 happens to be a friend of the channel. Thank you for that.
No, they're not that involved in drug trafficking. Oh my goodness.
Right.
No.
Kind of thoughts that are out there. Anyways,
no. You know, I mean, is anyone out there seeing like pink elephants? I don't know.
All right, let's reel it back in.
All right.
So this was just a little bit of fun.
The comedy moment is done.
Yeah. So yeah, bringing it back to the boys. I feel that this is a great thing that BPD. I was relieved when I got the news this morning that they were taking the lead. I was relieved for two specific reasons. Number one, resources. Right? They have an investigative unit. They have they have a lot of tools available to them to conduct proper investigations. Not saying California City Police can't do investigations. What I'm saying is that it's a fact. Chief John Walker has 13 members of the department. There's really not a lot that you could do. They have to answer calls for service. They have to maintain safety and security in their town. How are you going to take a group of 5 guys? And he said that I think he had 2 dedicated and 1 detective that he hired. So how are you going to do due diligence and do what needs to be done? It's overwhelming. There's nothing. I'm not bad mouthing them. I mean, I had conversations with Chief John Walker. He's a gentleman. Charlie, you and I spoke about it. The guy is genuinely wants to.
It's difficult when resources are limited. It really is.
Yeah, and he wants to.
You know, there's a big difference. There's a big difference between an agency that has, 40 investigators and someone who has 2. Yeah. And I'm not disparaging the 2. They could be the greatest investigators that the state of California has. Right. The point of it is, once you start overtaxing your manpower, it's done.
Yeah.
Guys can only work so many hours a day.
I agree, brother. I agree. Angela D says 20 search warrants. It's quite telling, in my opinion. Absolutely. Right, Charlie?
Yeah, it's based on an affidavit written up by a detective or an investigator, or depending on what agency they're from, what title they hold, and they're swearing to it. They're swearing that the affidavit is truthful and that, to the best of their knowledge, is accurate. And if you can get 20 on one case, that's pretty powerful. You're looking at the right things then.
Yep. Yeah. 100% agree. I was just looking at a text message that Gary sent me afterwards, so I'll continue that conversation when we're done here. But you know, a lot of people are saying in the chat that, you know, certain things need to be looked at. You know, the biological, not the biological, the adoptive parents, family, the grandparents. I would, you know, I think we both can agree that they were and still are probably looked at. Um, you know, these 20 search warrants, we don't have information to that case file, but we can certainly say that search warrants of this amount are not just done randomly. They're not searching a McDonald's. They're not doing a search warrant in, you know, in a vacant lot. It's residents. Search warrants, when you are asking for warrants for searching, it's to search a particular location. And it could also be for the vehicles. Like people talk about the second white van, right? So at the location in Cal City, Charlie, there was a white big, like, you know, 16 passenger van that they had to, you know, drive all these kids around in and stuff. They had 6 kids. Their parents, you know, have the same white van, and everybody was, you know, going nuts about that the police department didn't search that second van. There was a seat supposedly taken out, or a kid's safety seat taken out and potentially burned. Now, I don't know if these are rumors or if this in fact was fact, but maybe one of those 20 warrants was for the van, you know, and to search that van.
I mean, here's the other thing. All right, so all right, so you know, if you know in law enforcement, you do the affidavit, you get the warrant, you go serve the warrant. Now, what's required on any level, federal, state, local, return on the warrant to the court. Right. With that return on the warrant, you've got to provide an inventory of what is seized. Right. Now, that can be sealed as part of an ongoing investigation. Eventually, it will become part of a public record. But during the investigation, it can be sealed. Right. And it's very important to know later on down the road what actually was seized and inventoried. What was taken? Did they go to that secondary van, search it, and take nothing? Or did they go there and, you know, they found things that were, you know, great for the case? Who knows? But it's right now, I would have to say any good investigator is sealing it. They're going to the judge and they're saying, look, based upon the facts of the case and the ongoing investigation, if we release the inventory of what was or wasn't taken, it will blow the case. And you know, the judge is going to agree with the investigator. He relies on the investigator. He was good enough to come in and swear out a warrant. He believed him to give him the warrant. You're going back, usually back to the same judge with the return and the inventory. And they're they are going to seal it. If you ask for, if you say, hey, judge, please, we need this sealed to go further in the investigation, the judge is going to seal it.
I've had that happen many a times. You hit on such great points there, Charlie. The judge is looking to bring justice as well, right? They're not looking to try to hurt an investigator. So if you go to a judge in his chambers, because most of these search warrants, they don't happen inside a courtroom. A lot of them happen with the court reporter in,
or at their home at night.
Yeah, or at home. I've done them where
I've gone to the judge's house and had to swear it out in his house.
Yeah. So Mimi J2, who is a moderator and a channel member, says, can't one search warrant cover the home and its contents? Absolutely. Search warrants are specific. Some of them are no knock. Some of them are knock. We've spoken about that. We saw at the Cal City location a search warrant being conducted with guns drawn by the different agents that were there, whether it was Bakersfield, Cal City, and the FBI, probably all 3 agencies. And you saw the guys with their guns drawn and at their side going into Jacqueline and Trezel's house. Now, it's a safety issue for the officers going in, but, you know, like I said, you get a search warrant, it's not going to just be for one bedroom. Although I have done search warrants where it's just for one specific location in a home, because when you have these drug houses, some of them are subdivided, and if your confidential informant tells you that everything is just in that one left front bedroom, then sometimes the judge will just give you the warrant just for that location. So if somebody runs out of that room and goes down the hallway, then all bets are off. We're getting a little ahead of ourselves, though. I want to just say hello to people in the chat. Hello to Roro, if she was here. I see people saying hello to her. I don't see her. George Fisher saying hello to Crenshaw. Thank you for joining. Dawn Marie, channel member, and also a wonderful moderator. I appreciate you being in here. Hello, Joey Brooklyn. Everybody follow Joey Brooklyn. That's my good friend. And I see Goose is here. Carol, loving Alaska. Thank you, everyone, for hanging in there. We're over an hour. This live stream is going over an hour because there's a lot of information to get out. We earlier on had the retired Bakersfield lieutenant join us. He gave a lot of great information. This live stream is packed with a lot of good information. We will do more on these, and we will give you what needs to be given as far as the coverage as it unfolds in this case. Hello, Paula. Good to see you. Paula Modica, thank you for joining. Carol in Belrose in Ottawa, Ontario. Debbie Jars, good to see you. Thank you so much. Just Me says, at Dutyron, TW parents, let me stop that. Hold on. TW parents has now cleaned up the backyard. Okay, Trezell West's parents cleaned up the backyard and burned a little stuff there. Can the stuff still be found? I don't know what you're referring to as with stuff. If they burned anything that was considered evidence or that the investigators were looking at, Charlie, you can back me up on this. When a big fire happens in a backyard and a fire department responds, there's another unit that comes along with a suspicious fire, and it's called the fire marshals. Those are the fire police. And any major fire or a fire that is suspicious or deemed suspicious, a fire marshal comes out. Charlie, you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's the same thing on the federal level with ATF and their arson investigators. The burning of evidence, once that's done, it's extremely difficult to retrieve, I guess, court presentable material. If you can go back and prove somehow that what they did is a destruction of evidence, then those people will be criminally liable for that. But, once stuff is burned, it's extremely difficult, other than saying that the method that started the incendiary fire, it was started with, gasoline, or it was an electrical fire, or once it goes beyond that point, to retrieve anything that has been burned, it's almost impossible.
Right. Yeah. Thank you for that. But, also too, what we were trying to, kind of get out for the message, because these questions, some of them are redundant. They ask the same questions in different contexts. Basically, if say, like, people are some hinting at, like, oh, they burned the kids in this fire. It would take 1,400 to 1,800 degree temperatures to incinerate a body, a full-size body. These kids are small. I highly doubt they're going to burn kids in a backyard. Maybe evidence of car seat or a back seat of a car. That sounds plausible. It sounds doable to me. But taking the kids, and like people were saying early on, check their fireplace in Cal City. Check the fireplace for human remains. It just doesn't go that way. It doesn't. It never works out well, because if somebody does try to do that, because we've had cases in Staten Island where a husband tried to burn his wife in a fire in a park. He took charcoal and made a big fire and some wood. Tried to burn his wife's body in there. Didn't work out, and he wrapped her up and put her in a storage unit. He's behind bars right now and in jail, but it didn't go well, because it takes quite a bit to do that. But yeah, so evidence, like you said, if it's burnt there, it's very hard to recover it. and use it. It's not that it's never been done, but it definitely is challenging. Searching a home with searching a home 6 times is under one search warrant. Just roll with it. No, you have to go in and get individual each time you could. You can't.
Yeah, once you leave the premises, basically that search warrant is done.
Done. Yeah, and
And,
then
and if you find other information and you want to go back, the application for the search warrant begins anew.
Correct. And I'm going to give you a little bit more about what happens after a search warrant is conducted, because Charlie, I worked in the top unit that was the state parole NYPD task force. So we were monitoring recently released felony parolees, and what part of we did is on the report days for these parolees when they violated, like let's just say they were out past their time, or they violated the 126 terms of their conditions of release, we would debrief them, and we would get search warrants out of them. And instead of them going back to jail, we would, talk them into giving up some of the drug spots and some of the bad people that are selling guns and things of that nature. So when we would conduct these search warrants, we would have to do a search warrant checklist. And what that checklist was is we'd have to go back to the judge and report to what the results was of the search warrant. So we had to go back in and report the results of the search warrant. I'm going to go full screen just for a second because I want to get this point across. Hold on a second. Let me go full screen. Charlie, I'll be with you in a second. So search warrants not only get conducted, and anything and everything that you recover from those said search warrants, you now have to go back to the judge and report the actual findings of what your search warrant is. So if let's just say, for argument's sake, you go in and you tell the judge, there's this, and this in this search warrant. You conduct a search warrant and none of that stuff is recovered. It would be difficult for the judge to reissue another search warrant in that location. It's not impossible, but it's harder to get a search warrant back into that location if the things that you told them that you were looking for that you don't recover. It makes it more difficult. The fact that they were able to go back in 5 and 6 times tells me that they either A, recovered what they were looking for, or B, they had enough evidence to justify going back in for another look. So that's what we got going on with Search Warrant 101. I was a specialist in conducting search warrants. I did around 500 search warrants in my career, probably around that many, and that's a lot of search warrants. Not me myself, but my team executed probably right around 500 search warrants. My unit actually got a citation, got a medal for conducting that amount of search warrants. Like we were on fire at one point. We're just doing them 2-3 a day. So it is what it is. So you have to go back and do an inventory and report back to the judge. It's called returning your search warrant back to the judge. Rose Tuel, thank you so much for liking and sharing. Lake Superior Girl, I appreciate you being in here. Listen, we have 80,000 people who go missing every year that get unresolved. I think it's around 600,000 and change go missing every year, adults and children included. And out of that 600,000, most of them get resolved, but 80,000, that's a lot of people. Every year, there's 80,000 additional people who go missing every year, and that's a lot of work. It's a lot of people, So again, it is what it is, folks. I got to tell you, Charlie, what's your thoughts on that? It's a lot of people. I know you're aware of that statistic, being that you were a federal agent.
Well, it leaves a lot to be learned for society. I mean, think about this. It's not just, children obviously take the priority over adults because children normally are not of the age to care for themselves. But, you've got, I'm down here in Southwest Florida, and, we get silver alerts all the time. And that's, elderly people They have health conditions. They have all kinds of other, issues with Alzheimer's and dementia. They tell whoever it is they're going out to buy some groceries, and 5 hours later, they haven't come back. And the local grocery store for them is, 2 minutes away. So yeah, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. And the families bear a lot of the brunt of this because after a certain amount of time, they're the ones who continually are looking for the individual who is missing.
Yeah, Charlie. Look at that question that's put up on the screen there. Lady Sofrine says, "Will cleaning chemicals destroy any sense that a search dog might detect in the old Bakersfield apartment where they live?"
So a dog's sense of smell is so much greater than human, and it depends on how much and how long it's been there. It can mask it at times, but it most likely it's not going to destroy it unless it's been on that. Let's say they did something, they used some type of a chemical to cover it up, and it's been on there for so long that whatever was underneath that chemical has already been destroyed. But you look, simple thing is, look at drug smugglers. you know, they try and hide it in shampoo. They try and hide it in burlap sacks, and they wrap it with stuff that has ammonia and all these other things to try and throw the dog off. The dog's defeated.
Right, right.
Ask anyone from CBP. Ask the line inspectors who are canine officers how much dope they catch that's masked. It's a
Yeah.
lot.
Yep.
A lot of dope. Dogs,
It's
and you wonder why they say the man's greatest friend? They are,
yeah,
in
they
many
are.
ways,
It's
more than just
amazing.
companionship.
Yeah, it is amazing what they do, Charlie. Thank you for that. For some of the new people that are coming in, hi, Katie. I'm going to play a little part of this 3-minute video with Brian Wang again because I actually got to take a bathroom break. So I'm going to play just a little bit of this 3-minute video from earlier today. It's got a lot of information if you guys want to listen to it. And then me and Charlie will come back and we'll take 1 or 2 call-in guests that have questions that pertain to this, and then we'll wrap it up because we're already over an hour. So let me play this, and I'm going to take a bathroom break. Charlie, if you need to take a break, do that.
We'll give it 60 seconds on it.
Yeah, it's going to be about a minute and a half.
Okay. Yeah, no, we're good.
All right. Application. Let me get this right, and I'll go full screen with it. There's our good friend Brian Wang. All right, I'm going to go take a quick bathroom break, and I'll be right back.
Evening to you. That's exactly right. The Bakersfield Police Department took over the investigation this morning. And as you could remember, the California City Police Department were the former lead agency in this case. And I spoke to both departments this morning, and they told me that this jurisdiction switch was essentially that this jurisdiction switch was a progressive decision. It wasn't some kind of major breaking news overnight where they had to automatically switch who the lead agency was. This was over time in recent weeks, but it begs the question, why switch jurisdiction now?
It's a combination of factors. There is information that is known to investigators.
That information now making the Bakersfield Police Department the lead agency investigating the disappearance of 3-year-old Orson West and 4-year-old Orrin West. But those brothers were reported missing in California City on December 21st, a town more than 60 miles from Bakersfield that also has their own police department.
By no means are we dropping out. We just no longer will be the lead agency in the investigation.
California City Police Chief John Walker said that decision was finalized Monday morning, but he was unable to comment further. According to Bakersfield Police Sergeant Robert Pear, one reason for the switch has to do with the boys' history.
The little boys are from Bakersfield. Both their biological and adoptive families are from Bakersfield.
But according to former Bakersfield Police Department Lieutenant Gary Carresco, those factors alone don't determine jurisdiction.
Where the crime originated is the agency that takes responsibility for investigating that crime. It's not uncommon, though, for jurisdictions to shift during an investigation.
According to Pear, BPD is unable to disclose whether they believe a crime relating the boy's disappearance occurred in Bakersfield.
And I would like to be able to tell you, but I can't. And you know as well as I do that it's not just the public that are watching this. It's if there are people involved in this, then they're also paying attention to it as well. And so I can't release specific details.
Carrasco says in order for jurisdiction to change, there would have to be good evidence for it. If a crime didn't occur in Bakersfield, will the Bakersfield Police Department ever just take over an investigation and say we are now the lead investigators?
There again would have to be some exigent circumstances surrounding the details of the case, but normally, no. Normally, the only reason that they would take over the investigation is because there is sufficient evidence to believe that the case originated in Bakersfield.
Now, BPD is not new to this case, Byron. They have been working kind of behind the scenes for some time now, right?
That's right, Alex. The Bakersfield Police Department, the FBI, the Kern County Sheriff's Office, the Kern County's Bureau of Investigators, all of them a part of this case from the very beginning. We don't know if KCSO or if the District Attorney's Bureau of Investigators are still working the case, but yes, the Bakersfield Police Department since day one have been assisting CCPD. Now they're the lead agency, and new today we're learning from Sergeant Pear that over 20 search warrants were executed so far in Bakersfield, in other jurisdictions, in parts of California City as well, on behalf of the Bakersfield Police Department. He was unable to disclose exactly what they were looking for items from various residences is pretty much all he will tell us at this point. But for now, we're in downtown by Wang, 23 ABC, connecting you.
All right. So, that's really that's the overview on what we have going on in Bakersfield at this time. Charlie, I got to say thank you so much for you being here tonight on a moment's notice. I greatly appreciate that. I know you've been, you've been busy with doing a lot of stuff, a lot of preparing behind the scenes, and a lot of projects that you're working on. It's greatly appreciated. You are a tremendous asset to this channel. So
thank you. We all got to make our way through this world.
Yeah, but your law enforcement experience on a federal level, and the other folks that I bring on here, you just supplement it so well, because you're given the piece of the federal side that most people don't get to hear it from somebody who did the job for so long as you did. So we got a guest coming on, Soul for Music. Good to see you. Thank you for joining. Christina, I'm going to add you to the stream. What's your question for my guest?
Hi, I was wondering, how long does a scent hang around before the search dogs could no longer detect it?
Charlie, I'll let you take that one.
It depends on the environment it's in. Indoors, outdoors, very different. Was there anything done to try and, so-called on the perpetrator's part to clean up the crime scene? There is no set time. If you have a murder committed in a home, or drugs stashed in a home, something like that, where the environment is not affecting the crime scene, then you're well more likely that the dog is going to be able to do something about, detecting it. Whereas if it's an outdoor environment, it's not going to be as easy. It's subject to the elements.
I hope that answered that, Christina.
And is it will a search dog pick up just human bones without, flesh or clothes with it, or is that something that only like a cadaver dog would do, or how does that work?
Dogs are trained differently. All dogs are trained. Once they start their training, that's the path they go down, and if they fail, they're not moved over to a different discipline. So you don't start training a dog for drugs and then it doesn't make it, and you say, well, we'll make it a cadaver dog, or we'll make it an explosives dog. You know, they are trained for, you know, usually one discipline, and a lot of it is, it depends on what the need of the agency is. You know, so like an EOD team, meaning explosive ordnance disposal, whether it's in the military or in law enforcement, that dog is usually cross trained. Usually it's going to do explosives detection and attack, meaning if they let that dog off the leash, it's chasing a suspect. So a lot of those dogs can be cross trained, and those dogs are working dogs. You got to realize they're hard working. I mean, everyone says, "Oh, they're my partner." Well, you know what? They are.
Yeah.
Those dogs live with you, breathe with you, work with you every day, and they look to you as if you're the, you know, if you're a guy, the father figure; if you're a woman, the mother figure, and they are loyal to you, to one person, you.
Right.
And it's very difficult when that dog has to retire. It depends on the department or agency's policy, what they do with that dog. Does the dog retire and go with the person who had them? Was that, you know, the military for years, at the end of their service, which is a very sad thing, would destroy the animal because they didn't want to put that dog somewhere where it would become a potential liability. If you look at the history of service dogs in the military throughout the years, they've served well, they've done well, but up until recently, I say the last probably 10 or 15 years, those dogs were being put down.
Wow. That's hurtful. You know, because people that love dogs, they're like, "Well, why would you do that?" But I understand it.
It's a huge liability. You could never put a dog like that in a home with a child and expect something good to come of it.
Christina, thank you so much for calling in. I think, you know, Bones with the recovery, it goes down to being brought back into the forensics, like not an autopsy, but, you know, somebody like the Barbara Butcher that I had on. She's a retired chief of staff with the New York City Medical Examiner's Office. That would be a question that I would ask her, that she would probably have the answers to. So that would go on a whole different side of investigation. But human remains and remains from animals, that gets deciphered in the field by experts that know how to make that identification process, i.e. the homicide detectives from Bakersfield. You know, they have a dedicated homicide squad there. I got to get back to the question, the next guest. I got another person waiting on. Christina, thank you so much. Where are you calling in from?
South Carolina, Charleston.
God bless you. I love it over there in South Carolina. Talk to you soon, Christina.
All right, thank you. Bye-bye.
You're welcome. Louisiana girl, how are you? You got to unmute your mic.
Sorry, I'm great. Thanks. How are you?
I'm good, darling. Thank you for calling in. What's your question?
I have so many,
all right,
but I'll leave it. I will limit it to one.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Do you guys feel like, from an investigative standpoint, the investigation was transferred because of a tip or something major that came in, and they're looking into it and it's looking like it's panning out?
Charlie, I'll let you go first and then I'll go.
I don't think that one tip is going to turn an investigation. It could, but something that drastic where it goes from one jurisdiction to another, there has to be a lot of evidence behind that. There is not going to be someone calls in and says, you know, I have information. It has to go beyond the information. Like, they can take the information and write it up in an affidavit to get a warrant.
Right.
Let's say it's on a house or a place of business or a car or even an account somewhere, a bank account, a cellular account, whatever it is. But there has to be something else other than just a tip. It has to go beyond the tip. You have to be able to prove it.
Right. So to expand on Charlie's, that, I mean, he took the words right out of my mouth, but to expand on your question, For the investigation to move to Bakersfield taking over, now I know the sergeant made a statement that kind of alluded to it was just a goodwill gesture and we're just taking over just because we have the resources. I beg to differ with that, and I feel that they have some type of substantial evidence that would lead them to say, hey, we have ruled out that the kids were missing from California City, therefore the investigation no longer exists in California City. So in my professional opinion, I've done hundreds, thousands of these type of investigations. For it to transfer, say, from the New York City Police Department to the Nassau County Police Department, we have to have good enough evidence where we can justify that switch. Okay.
Exactly.
It just doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen just because. So I'll leave you with that, Louisiana girl. I have two more people waiting. But
So thank you, Dutyron and
welcome.
Mr. Charlie Butt,
Good
for your
night.
service.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for thanking us. We appreciate it, Louisiana girl. Love and respect. All right, let me unmute Sheila. Oh, she is unmuted. Hi, Sheila. What's your question?
I want. Okay, first of all, I'm from Ireland, so I've got a little bit of a rogue here that you're going to be hearing.
Oh, for fuck's sake! Good to see you.
And it's Sheila. It's Sheila, not Sheila.
Okay.
My question is, how do we know for sure that the family provided clothing that belonged to the boys and didn't belong to maybe children that had been fostered by them before? We wouldn't have a scent originally of the boys, and the only thing we would have would be their blood tests from birth, I think.
Okay, I can answer that. I'll take that, and then Charlie, you can expand on it. We as investigators have to count on the adoptive parents or the parents of these children to give the proper clothing of their child. Now, if they did something nefarious, if they did something wrong to these kids, and in fact are responsible for their demise or disappearance, you would say common sense, they're not going to give clothing from their kids. They're going to be deceptive. Now, these two adoptive parents, Trezell and Jacqueline West, have been evasive from the get-go, from the beginning interview right down to their shady actions of not showing up to any of the searches, not standing on street corners and handing out flyers saying, "Where's my children?" So my answer to that question is they more than likely didn't give the right stuff. In my investigative experience, I would be very suspect of anything that they've told me, and I would say to myself, these people are full of. So I bleeped that out. We didn't
call
want
that shite.
Yeah, we feel that I feel as a good investigator, I could see right through them, and so could Sergeant Cannon, a retired, seasoned homicide detective investigating sergeant, and Charlie Butt, who is a retired Secret Service agent. Charlie, what's your thoughts on that?
Based upon the adoptive parent's actions, you're not going to trust what they're doing, what they're giving you, what they're telling you. This is probably why, if you look at the amount of search warrants, right now we're at a count of 20.
Plus
This
6.
is probably why we're at 20 search warrants.
26.
Because 26?
There's 6.
Yeah, they're looking at everything. You know, it's the old trust but verify, right? We'll take you at your word, but whatever you tell us, just realize this: we're going to verify what you're saying. You're telling me this is your son's jacket, and this is your son's pants, and this is, the blanket that they shared or he used every night, or this was a teddy bear he laid on and slept with.
Right.
Okay, that's a beautiful thing, and we thank you for your cooperation. But after that, once I leave, I'm not believing it, because I'm going to go another route and verify it. That's how it works. That's how it works.
And I apologize. I apologize for not getting your name right, and thank you for correcting me. Do you want to correct me one more time on the pronunciation of your first name?
Sheila.
Sheila. Can I say it right? Sheila.
Sheila. Yes.
I love it. I love it. I so much appreciate the folks from Ireland and over in the UK and all over the place. You guys are a tremendous asset to these true crime channels and folks like myself that are talking about this. We have so much positive interaction with you folks, and I can't thank you guys enough for your passion and dedication that you put from across the pond into these criminal cases here in America. And I plan to actually look into some crimes over there and try to cover them in the future from the reverse role here. So I want to try to study some of the crimes that go on over there in Ireland and some of the various other areas and try to cover those, because I'm sure that would be fascinating to connect with some of the law enforcement over there and get their take on things. So thank you for calling in.
Thank you for having me.
Yes.
And it's been interesting. And Charles, every time you're on here, I just love listening to your input, because you and Dutyron are just so phenomenal in what you be saying.
Well, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. and
My
goodbye.
grandmother would be proud. She's from Cork.
Oh, everybody's from Cork County, don't you know?
I wonder if there are more people that fled there than actually live there anymore.
I think so. Have a great
Have a good day.
evening, and thank you for what you're doing.
Love and respect from New York. Thank you. Wow, that's great. What a great way to end the show. I really appreciate that. So she's a tremendous asset to the interaction, and that's what it's all about. And it brings me to my next point. If you're not subscribed to Dutyron, please consider subscribing to this channel. Follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, all one word, Dutyron. I'm going to link all of Charlie's social media down below, whatever he allows me to, because he is still a Secret Service agent.
You can link whatever you want.
Yeah, there may be certain things that Charlie will limit me on with sharing of him, but just kidding, Charlie. Anything that you want me to share here, I'm going to link it down below in the description. I'll have Bayan Wang and all of his information to go and watch his stuff. I want to just say, the replay viewers and the live chatters, we value your input. This is not a one-way street. It's a two-way street. We're giving information to you from the law enforcement perspective. And if you like everything from the law enforcement side, this is definitely a channel to subscribe to. Go over to my Facebook group. I have a police and crime chat group. Charlie is in that group. You can correspond and interact with him in there. I have a Discord group, and anybody that became a channel member or is part of this Dutyron family, you can join our Discord group and continue the conversation after the live stream is over. So, Charlie, I think your daughter is in the chat trolling you. So I don't want to say anything, but
as always,
Yeah.
when does one of your children not get a chance to troll you? Right? Come on,
she's
take advantage of it.
She's having a blast, and I would have to say she's jealous that her father is in a live stream with almost 1,000 people watching him.
Between that and my iPhone, she's bombing me.
That's what love is about.
That's the joy of a daughter.
I love it. I love it. Tell her to make sure she subscribes to Dutyron first.
Yeah, well, she is. She's in.
She's already in. All right.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
She's a full-blown addict.
A lot of love and respect from me and Charlie. Charlie's down in beautiful sunny Florida. Until the next live stream, whenever there's any new updates, leave me some comments down below. Let me know how you enjoyed Charlie and our guest, Gary, a retired BPD lieutenant. Let me know what you think of my guests and what you think of the show. Go on to my website, dutyron.com. Yes, I did put up a billboard in Lancaster. It's going live at midnight, says Jennifer Nobles. Jennifer, thank you so much. There she is. I'm sorry I missed her. Dutyron, she says, we sponsored Charlie a billboard for the boys in Lancaster,
Nice.
California. So my channel sent some of our donations straight out to one of the companies in Lancaster.
Is it one of the 24/7 ones, or is it a digital one?
It's a 24/7, I believe, digital, Jen. I don't know. She can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's a big, huge billboard. I have a picture of it. I'll share that on a separate live stream, and we'll talk about that.
That's wonderful.
It's going live tomorrow, so I made the payment today, signed the contract, so we are up with the boys. Remember, it's about the boys, and if you have any tips or anything, I'm going to link the anonymous tip line down below in the description. I encourage you to please call in those tips. Don't get discouraged by other people's naysaying. Don't be a follower, be a leader. Go and do your part, and don't be discouraged by what you've heard in the past. Call in those tips, call them in, and let's get these boys home. Let's bring them home. Charlie, I love you, brother. Thank you so much for being here.
Love you too, my brother. Be good. Talk to you soon.
I can't wait for us to get together and have an adult beverage and hug it out, after this COVID.
I'm probably coming back up to the great Capital District in about 4 or 5 weeks.
If you come here, I promise me and you, we're going to get together and do a live stream together.
All right. I work for peanuts.
Brenda just asked if you were on Tinder, Charlie. I don't think he's available. He's got a significant other. There it is.
I don't participate in much social media anymore. I'm on one thing only, LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn only.
But she asked you if you're on the dating app Tinder.
I've had a lack of participation in that area.
Okay, fair enough. Charlie, you're a good egg, and I appreciate you being here. I'll talk to you guys on the next one. Hang around for the after show, Charlie. We're going to talk just for a couple of minutes.
Sounds good.
Good night from New York City and Florida. Love and respect.